Okay, everyone, welcome again to another continuation to our lesson for the footer section here. And as you would see here, we did use a list of items or a list of items that will serve as a navigation in our web page or document. However, I did not use the nav element. So if I just want to go and open here a tab for the nav element section element documentation. And as you can see here, I just wanted to go and review this because a question in my mind came up when I was trying to work on this lesson on whether should we be using the nav element inside or outside the header element. So technically, I just wanted to go and do some additional reading about this. This is actually a good read. So I'm going to include this in our references, or at least you can go read through the concern about using the nav element inside of our footer section. And if we try to go through the documentation here, you would see that the nav elements represent a section of a page whose purpose is to provide navigation links either within the current document or to other documents. And if we go down here, where is that? It's not necessary for all links to be contained in a nav element. Nav is intended only for major blocks of navigation links. We've already tackled this before. I just wanted to go through it one more time. So again, repetition is the best way for you to remember things. If you forget something, you repeat some of the lessons that we had. And that's the same reason why I encourage you to really commit yourself to the 100 Days of Code challenge, because that will be helping you out in taking down notes. I know that I have suggested that you do it manually in the earlier part of our lessons because I wanted you to really do notes and note taking and really try to have something to read manually, and have some records inside of your local computer. But another way to really monitor your achievement is through the use of the 100 Days of Code challenge commitment, from where you create a repository, and then from there you will be tweeting it to Twitter, so at least you can also build your network, your community, and at the same time, you would see that as you go through the 100 Days of Code challenge, you would see your Twitter account having all of the lessons that you have so far learned, and you can go back to them if you try to browse through and scroll down your Twitter account and your tweets. You will be able to see there some of the lessons that you have already achieved finishing in the past, and you can review them at the same time. So going back here, I'll just be leaving the link here, so at least this can be a good reference for you to read some additional reading materials. Now let's go back to our code here. And what I want to do here is to just go and copy this and then try to go and let me just create 3 more sets. 1, 2, and 3. And from each of those sets, I'm just going to go and change some of the content here. So let's have here, we do have a get to know us for the first set, and then here I just want to go and replace this with community. And then let me just go and remove 2 list items here. And I just want to go and have here inside of the community events and forums. So you can try to go and insert anything that you believe will be related to what you're building right now. So you don't have to be copying what I'm doing here, but you can just go and try to innovate. So I'm just going to use here social media links for the third set of list items. So let's go and put Facebook here, and here let me just go change this to Twitter, and here let me go change this to Perhaps let's just have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And here I would want to go and remove this and replace this with join us. And then let me just delete that and have a link to our sign in, sign in, and sign up forms. So we can go and replace this with our signin.html, and this one we can replace this with our signup.html, right? Now let's go and try to refresh our browser. Let me just go and open my browser here. Let's go back here, refresh, and we now have some content here, but of course we would want to go and apply some styling here. So let's go and try to work on that. So let's try to go back up here. So guys, one of the things that I would want to change here, guys, would be to create a longer set of stars here. I just do this commonly, guys, so at least it will be a lot easier for me to navigate here in the preview. So at least I will be able to see it a lot easier in the preview right pane here. This is just my way of identifying certain sections of my code, and as you can see here, we have already written up to 753 lines of code, and it can sometimes be difficult for you to navigate through the codes that you have written. And personally, this helps me visually identify the different sections of my code, so I usually do it this way. So what I would want to do here next would be to go and select the footer navigation div. I want to set that to position relative, and then the footer list, and set the margin top to 2 rem. I want it to be floated left, and I want to give it a height of 15 VH, and list style type of property value none. Let's go see how that will look in our browser, and there we go. We now have our UL element floated left, and now let's go work on our footer list items here. So if we go back to our markup here, we gave this a footer item class name. So let's go and select that class name for the footer item. And let's apply some margin top of 0 pixels and margin bottom of 5 pixels. And let's also apply some text shadow of -2 pixels, 0 pixels, 1 pixels, RGB, 75, 23, 23. So let's just go and see how this will look on our browser. Okay, let's just go and try to select our footer links and remove the text decoration. Give it a value of none. Let's change the color to F7, F7, F7. Let's save that. Okay, that looks a lot better. Now let's go back to our markup here. Let's create another div here that I would want to call footer copyright. Inside of that div, I just want to go and use a paragraph element. Let's use our copyright symbol here. So everyone, if you're wondering if you can go and use this for your portfolio, yes, you can. So you don't have to worry about any copyright issues with regards to this project that we are building. I am just highly encouraging you to go and try to be creative, of course. I want you to try figuring out things on your own. That's why I'm also telling you to go and try to apply some of your innovative designs in this project. But if you decide to go first with copying everything that we're doing here, that's also okay. So you don't have to worry about any of the copyright issues here. So it is completely okay for you to use this as one of your project portfolio. Let's just go type here. Giving credit to the original author, of course, will be highly appreciated. To the original author will be highly appreciated. Okay, so let's go see our browser here, how that will look. Now let's just try to go and format our document here. Let's see, at least the indentation is much cleaner here. Now let's try to go and work with some other parts of our footer section here. So we do have a footer heading here. Let's first try to work with that. So if we try to H2 footer heading 2, let's go and apply that. Let's go and select that footer heading 2. Let's go and apply some padding here. 35 pixels, 10 pixels, also 35 pixels and 10 pixels. Margin will be 0 pixels, and let's give it a text shadow of -3 pixels, 3 pixels, 4 pixels, and 00A to FFF. Now let's try to go and refresh our browser. Let's see how that will look. Okay, so we have some padding and we have some text shadow now here. Now let's try to go work on some of the other parts at the bottom here. Now let's try to go work with the footer heading that we have here. Let's select this and go to our footer list and footer heading 4. Let's give it a display inline value, padding of 1 rem, 10 pixels, 0 pixels, 10 pixels, then text shadow of -3 pixels, 3 pixels, 134, 0.938. I'd like that color here. Let's give the border bottom of 2 pixels solid RGB 2452 and 2. Now let's try to go and refresh our browser here. Let's see how that will look. Okay, so now we have our heading having a border red at the bottom, but we're still having a problem with our list items here that are links that we have here in our markup as links here. So as a challenge, I just want you to figure out what can you change in the properties that we have declared here, and which among the class selectors that we have here do we need to change a certain property that is related to our footer heading here, so that we can go and have all of these list items in a vertical position as if they are positioned in a table cell, similar to this one, right? So we have columns and we have rows, right? So I would want you to try to figure out how we can go create rows here without using the table element. But we just need to go and change a single property that is related to the footer heading for here, okay? And try to figure this on your own on what will be the solution. What property do you need to change? Do you need to go to our footer container here, footer navigation? I want you to figure this out on your own. So pause the video and try to figure this out. It's a property that you will need to change so that we can go and have the anchor elements here or the list items here to be placed in a row. So pause the video first and then later on I will be going to help you out in figuring this out. But I just want you to practice debugging in this exercise and trying to figure out things on your own. So pause the video and we'll continue with this after you have figured it out. So don't worry, I will be guiding you through what will be the answer to the challenge here later on. So just pause the video for now and then try to figure it out on your own. So at least you can go and try to test things out and you're practicing already debugging. Okay, I hope that you were able to figure this out. So if we try to go and look into our code here, we know that the footer heading has a display inline that allows us to place our elements in a horizontal position, right? And however, we would want to go and place our other footer items in a row. So what we just need to do here is actually to go and give this a display block. If you remember our exercise the with the display property, if you figure this out on your own, very good. You're now an official debugger. You have found a bug in your code and we were able to go and solve our challenge here. So this is a very common thing, guys. You might encounter having the need to become a bug hunter. So you're looking for the mistake that you may have done in your code and something that you may have missed. So it's very common that sometimes you will need to rest your mind, try to do something else for a while if you're really having a big problem with regards to finding the bug and figuring out what's wrong in the code that you have written. So that's perfectly normal. Welcome to the club. That's very, very normal. And this is something that you might also encounter in some of the skills assessment that you might take. If, for example, you're going to be signing up in LinkedIn and you will be trying to get a badge for a certain skill like HTML, you might encounter certain questions like this from where you will be asked what is the best way to represent a list. So these are just things that you might encounter, and that's why I wanted you to go and figure this thing out on your own. So right now we were able to solve our challenge here. So let's go try to bring this down a little bit and let's go back to our code here and let's go and try to give our footer copyright some styling. Let me just go put here footer copy right padding 25 pixels, text align, center, margin top 3.5 rem. So let's see how that will look on our browser now. Okay, so we do have a much bigger um, space here. Let me just go back to our markup here. I just want to go and give this a line break. And let's see how that will look in our browser. And there we go. So that's happening. Let's see. Let me just, or let's first, so at least you will see it without us using the developer tools. But developer tools is going to be very important, especially if you're going to be doing some debugging. But for this case, I just wanted to show you what happened there. Let me go give you here a background color of red. This is something that I usually do when I'm having a difficult time finding bugs. So let's see here. So we know that this is a, if we try to look at our box here for the footer copyright and layout, it's a display block. It's occupying the whole width, right? And if we try to remove this break here, let's see what will happen. Can that be done in the different developer tools? Let me just check here. Okay, let's just go back to our, so that we won't be wasting time here. I just wanted to show you this. This is one of the things that I usually do when I'm having a difficult time figuring things out in my code. I either use the developer tools, I go back to my code and try to figure things out. And there you go. You would see that it's up there. And now what we just did here is that I used the line break element, so that I can move the space from our footer element here, main footer element. And I'm just showing you here, guys, some of the things that I usually do when I'm coding, and now I was able to add a line break, so we were not able to expand, or we are now able to maintain the size that I wanted for the layout of this design without me changing the property here. So this is one of the ways that you can use for figuring things out. You add a background color, try to figure out what is happening in this element, in these elements. Actually, there's another thing that you can look for here in our styles. So we do have here the div footer navigation. We just named this, so at least we would know that all of the elements here are inside of the footer navigation, and we have here the footer copyright, which will be containing the copyright content. And if we try to look at our code here, we actually don't need another class here that we placed here. If we try to go and comment this out, and one way for you to comment out some of your code, guys, may it be in the index.html or in the style sheet, is to press on the control key and K, and you would see here at the bottom part, control K was pressed. So the quicker way of just commenting things out using Visual Studio Code will be using the control key plus the K and then the C key. So you would see I was able to comment out the footer navigation selector that we have here. So that's a quick shortcut. Instead of you typing / asterisk and then the closing comment tags here, that's the same thing here with our HTML elements here. You can also do that here. Let me just try to comment out this audio element here, control K plus C, and you would see that also commented out this set of markup that we've written here. So if we try to go back to our code here, and try to refresh. Let's see what will happen. Now we can see that the player that we had before is now gone in our code. So, and you would also see that when we commented out the navigation selector, you would see, guys, that nothing happened. And that's actually one way of you testing out if your code, if you really needed a certain code declaration in your code. So at least you can go and try to comment things out first and then try to figure out. This is a good way on how you can go and try to figure things out. You would want to test things out by using comments, as I've said. So instead of you deleting it totally, you try to comment things out and then try to test things and see what will happen to your project once you try to refresh and try to figure things out that is happening in the browser once you try to go and comment some parts of your code. So at least you can still go back to that part and try to make some changes. Okay. So right now we have removed the audio player here. So let me just go back here to our code here. So you would see, guys, that we're almost actually done here, and you would see that we now have some sections here. So let's go and try to remove this line, horizontal line here. I actually just placed that there for exercise purposes. So let's look for that. So we have a horizontal rule here. So let's go and comment that out also. Control K plus C. Let's see how that will look in our browser now. Okay, so the one that is here was the one that was removed. Let's go back up here and let's try to remove this also. Control K plus C and refresh. Okay, so we can now see that this is almost a complete website, everyone. So we have done a lot of changes already. We have some cards here. Very simple design. So let me just go remove the background color here. Let's go back to our where's that? Okay, so again, I'm going to practice Control K plus C and go back to our browser, refresh, and there we go. So I hope you learned a lot in this session, everyone, and I'm hoping that you got some ideas in debugging and also you were able to figure out things on your own and during the challenges. So thank you, everyone. So we'll be continuing with the next lesson and we'll do some adjustments in some of the layout of our design here. So thank you and see you on our next lessons.